There was a small, quiet village near a big river called Sleepy Hollow. It was peaceful, but strange things always seemed to happen there. The people in the village believed in ghosts and monsters, especially one ghost known as the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman was said to be the ghost of a soldier who had lost his head in a great battle long ago. He roamed the woods at night, looking for his lost head. The people would tell scary stories about him, and everyone in Sleepy Hollow was always nervous after dark. One day, a tall, thin man named Ichabod Crane arrived in Sleepy Hollow. He was the new schoolteacher. Ichabod was very clever, but he wasn't good looking. He had a long nose and big feet, and he looked like a scarecrow. He came to teach the children of Sleepy Hollow, but he also liked the mystical stories that the villagers told. He wasn't afraid of ghosts or anything strange, or so he thought. Soon Ichabod met a beautiful girl named Katrina Van Tassel. She was the daughter of a wealthy man in the village. Ichabod liked her very much. She was charming and everyone admired her, but she didn't show much interest in Ichabod. Ichabod believed that if he married Katrina, he would have a wonderful life with lots of food and riches. He dreamed of winning her heart, but there was someone else who wanted to marry her too. Brom Bones was a strong and mischievous young man in the village. He was the opposite of Ichabod. He was brave and liked to play tricks on people. Brom was also in love with Katrina. Brom often made fun of Ichabod, calling him Skinny Scarecrow, and playing tricks on him. He would sometimes scare Ichabod on purpose, hoping to chase him away. Ichabod and Brom started to argue over Katrina. Both wanted to win her heart. Ichabod tried to impress her by reading her poems and telling her ghost stories, while Brom would make her laugh with his funny jokes and pranks. Katrina seemed to enjoy the attention from both men, but she didn't choose anyone. The rivalry between Ichabod and Brom grew stronger every day. One evening, Katrina's father invited everyone to a big party at their house. There was music, food, and lots of dancing. Ichabod hoped that tonight he would finally win Katrina's heart. He danced with Katrina, sang songs for her, and even ate lots of delicious food. But Brom kept looking at them and made sure to show off his muscles and strength. Ichabod started to feel nervous. As the night went on, the villagers sat around the fire and told ghost stories. They spoke about the Headless Horseman and other spooky creatures in the woods. The stories were scary, but Ichabod loved them. Brom Bones told a story about how he had once faced the Headless Horseman and lived to tell the tale. Everyone laughed, but Ichabod felt a chill run down his spine. After the party, Ichabod mounted his horse, Gunpowder, to ride home through the dark, foggy woods. The night was cold, and the trees looked like giant shadows. Ichabod remembered the ghost stories and began to feel uneasy. He tried to calm himself, but the wind seemed to whisper strange sounds, and he could hear branches snapping under the weight of something moving through the woods. Could it be the Headless Horseman? As Ichabod rode deeper into the forest, he saw a dark figure in the distance. It was a rider on horseback, but when Ichabod looked closely, he saw that the rider had no head. The Headless Horseman was real, and he was coming closer. Ichabod's heart began to race. He spurred Gunpowder to run as fast as he could, but the ghostly rider kept getting closer and closer. Ichabod felt his horse galloping faster and faster, but the Headless Horseman was still following him. The sound of hooves echoed through the trees, and Ichabod could hear the ghost's angry laughter. The woods seemed darker and scarier, and Ichabod thought, "I must make it to the bridge." He remembered that if he reached the old bridge near the village, he would be safe. Ichabod finally reached the bridge, but just before he could cross, the Headless Horseman threw something at him. It was a pumpkin, flying through the air like a bomb. The pumpkin hit Ichabod hard, knocking him off his horse. He fell to the ground, his mind spinning, and everything went dark. The next morning, the villagers searched the woods for Ichabod. They found his horse alone, with no sign of Ichabod anywhere. They found only a broken pumpkin on the ground, and the villagers whispered, "The Headless Horseman has taken him." Brombones smiled and said maybe he just ran away. But everyone was uncertain. Days passed, but no one saw Ichabod. The villagers wondered if he had really been taken by the Headless Horseman or if he had left the village in fear. Some believed Brombones had something to do with Ichabod's disappearance. Brom seemed too happy, and Katrina, who had once been interested in Ichabod, married Brom soon after. The village had many guesses, but no one knew the truth. Years went by, but the mystery of Ichabod Crane's disappearance never left Sleepy Hollow. The villagers still told stories of the Headless Horseman. Some said Ichabod had been taken by the ghost, while others believed he had just run away in fear. Some brave souls would still travel through the woods at night, but many believed that the ghostly rider still roamed the land. Brombones married Katrina and became the new leader of the village. But every time someone mentioned Ichabod's name, Brom would smile quietly, as if he knew something the others didn't. Some people thought he knew the truth about what happened that night. Had Brom played a trick on Ichabod to scare him away? The story of the Headless Horseman was still told at every gathering in Sleepy Hollow. The villagers believed that the curse of the horseman was still alive. They said that anyone who dared to walk through the woods alone would meet the ghostly rider. But even though they were scared, no one could resist telling the story again and again, as if they were under the ghost's spell. On dark, foggy nights, the villagers would sometimes hear the sound of galloping hooves in the distance. Some would say it was just the wind, but others would whisper, "It's him, the Headless Horseman." No one dared to go out into the woods after dark, and every time someone disappeared, the villagers would look to the forest, wondering if it was the ghost that had taken them. As the years passed, the story of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman became a legend. Children grew up hearing the tale, and even though they were scared, they still loved to hear it. They wondered if the ghostly rider was real, and if Ichabod had truly been lost forever in the woods. The people of Sleepy Hollow would still sometimes hear the strange sounds in the woods. The Headless Horseman was still there, they believed, looking for his head, and maybe for Ichabod too. The legend of Sleepy Hollow would never die. The story of Ichabod Crane remained a mystery forever. Was he taken by the Headless Horseman, or did he just run away? No one knew for sure, but the people of Sleepy Hollow would always remember the terrifying night, and they would never forget the ghost who haunted their woods. The legend of Sleepy Hollow would live on.